Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 438th Knowledge Seekers Workshop here on Thursday, June 23rd, 2022. This is a broadcast of the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute Education Department and is part of the public teachings in English. My name is Rick Crammond. I'll be host here again in these weekly Knowledge Seekers workshops. And once again, we are joined with Mr. Mehran Keshe of the Keshe Foundation, who is ready to present today's workshop. Hello, Mr. Keshe.
Good morning, good day to you as usual. Whenever and wherever you listen to this series of Knowledge Seekers of the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute. We're here to share more and see the beauties of the sharing the knowledge. The screen page you see is from the testimony of the 6 Italians, which they joined us this week to go to where they want to. As I explained to the knowledge seekers, we don't fly anymore. Fly is a dimension of physicality. Going to is a dimension of the soul. You don't need to fly to go somewhere. You decide to go and you go to. We've shown this with knowledge seekers, Italians, Germans, and the others, that they instantaneously don't sit to fly and fly like a bird to enter somewhere. They decide to be on the moon, they are on the moon. They decide to see the soul of their loved ones, they arrive. So now we understand the purpose of the universal language, which means we go to places instantaneously. As I said in the session of last night, which we made it live, for the testimonial of what the Italians did the day before, we have brought man directly into universal community. When you go to a place and you see creatures, you have met with the universal community. This is how easy we have brought you to understand and to taste and to feel. The beauty of it is, man would always like to play games. And we played your game. We brought you exactly directly where we wanted you to come into. None of the participants tell you they flew, they landed, they went through customs, they saw the God knows planet so and so, what we call customs officers and immigration. These things are finished with the new technology. You tell them, they say, oh, they just walked into the ocean. They knew how to swim. Some of them never swam in their life. They knew how to fly. They never knew how to fly, but they've never been taught how to fly. But they fly with their souls around the place to see. Some of them, we hear, are the travelers of the universe. They don't want to be anywhere, but they just want to go as fast as they can and see how fast they can see what they can see. In a way, we have brought you the truth, the dimension of the travel of the soul of the man. It's been a privilege to be in the Enhancement Center and see how people walk out of that. What they go through, what they will see. You will see one of the most interesting disclosures where most probably Saturday or Sunday, we send out, we open up a testimonial, is by Austrians only. We had the Germans, we had the Italians, and yesterday we had the privilege to have Austrians with us. It was one of the most thrilling things to listen, the joyful things to hear what they went through, how they tested the limitation of the joy. It became very, very interesting. We've seen this in past 3 weeks, but yesterday and with what we call Italians on Tuesday, we learned exactly what it means when the soul of the man carries the physicality of the man. They stay in the system. We give them now plenty of time. The Italians took 4 or 5 hours, more or less, to be in there. And the Swiss, they came in and gone. We had the pleasure of having 2 Mojans at the same time with us, the original Mojans who joined us in Ghana and in China. And it was a privilege to see them again. And when we put the Austrians in yesterday, it was a mayhem. The mayhem with the Austrians was very interesting because we saw it in the past with the others in the past few days. In a dimension of physicality, we live, we go through the cycle that we have to go to the toilet or whatever when we feel like it. When you're in the dimension of the soul, the physicality, even working, has no connection to the soul to tell the soul, I want to go to the toilet. But the minute they have no impression, they have no feeling, when they're in the dimension of the system, that they have such an urge. The minute they sit on the last seat when they transfer to the dimension of physicality, they run like a bullet to be out, because now the dimension of the soul of the man has no more control. Physicality is taking over, and you see them just coming out and asking for a place. Where is the toilet? But it doesn't matter how long they spend in the system, there is no such a feeling. Which means it's showing us the totality of the system built works perfectly efficiently for what has been built. And we are learning more about these things. But what is interesting is that the way knowledge seekers see the light. We had it from the first person going in, more or less. The lady explained to us. And now we see with everybody else. We are fine-tuning the system. We know exactly how you feel, where you feel, in what chair, and now we can transmute you in the dimension of the liquid, solid, protein, or whatever. We had a very good test with the Italians. Because there were 6 of them, we could take understanding control of the community. How will they react? How they'll be? How they'll interact with each other's soul. We see in some of the tests how people decide in between to switch between physicality and the soul of the man. These things will become very, very, very much apparent, and we'll see things. We start seeing, as what we said from the beginning, physical changes in those who go through the expansion of the soul. Stefania yesterday explained to us, she had spots on her arms since she caught COVID. As we know, she was on the verge of death. With the support of the Keshe Foundation and knowledge seekers in the UK, we managed to help her. She came from the borderline back to life. And she explains, as she came in the next day, that all the spots she had since the time of Corona, they're all gone. The itches are gone. Look, listen to the testimonial. Then we see people who had other problems, psychological, emotional, physical, go through the same process. And this is what we said from the beginning. This is a universal flight system. To fly and be able to go to places, you need to use the soul. You want to move the body, international airports or down the road. Go down, get a flight, and fly to anywhere you're done. You want to travel in the dimension of the energy fields of the universe, which you call the soul, join the Keshe Foundation. At the moment is the excitement of doing things. Once this excitement and this process finishes and systems continuously developed and delivered, you go to the system, you connect to the system, and you decide where to go with the system. In a way, you have an option to live the physical life And now you have bought a ticket to universal community to go to. When you're on Earth, you fly to a place, you drive to a place. When you are in the universal condition of interactions, you go to places because it's instantaneous. And everybody tells you the same. But the interesting point of this development in the past few weeks for us has been that nobody is learning a new language in interacting with the universal community. You know what they want. You know what you want to give them. As the lady said yesterday, she dressed them in gold. She covered them in gold. There is no need to learn a new language. You hear from our Austrian team, even as a frog, they knew what to do. Even they become fishes, they know what to do. We understand the language of the soul of the animals. There is no need to learn a language. We have had up to now about 60, 70 people in the system. And none of them said he could not communicate or she could not understand. They took them to the parks, they took them to the waters, they swam with them, they flew with them, they became butterfly, they could see them. But there was no need for learning a language. There are no deaf and dumb sides in the universe because nobody is deaf or dumb. They all understand the language of each other through the soul of the common denominator, the soul of the Creator. This is the language of the universe. And we all know it within our soul. This is what will happen to many of you. As I explained yesterday to our friends in the test area, that you will appear in China and you speak Chinese. You appear in India and you speak Indian. And when you come back, you remember everything you said you did, but you won't remember that you used the Indian language or the Chinese language. This will come more and more apparent as we develop this technology and we come to a new phase. We see the evolution of the science. We see the evolution of the change in the dimension of the what we call evolution of the soul of the man. When I stand outside and one by one the knowledge seekers come out and we hear the story of their travel, we hear more and more how perfect we have made the systems to work. How we can allow people to take directly to where they want to go, and we are perfecting that art that gives the man the individuality of the wish. In the next week or two, those of you who come to Linz, you will see a different kind of structure, but very similar. It's the same structures as we have, but upgraded, that we are hoping from next week to transmute. To be able, we have to set our systems to transfer from one system to another. If you remember, a few months ago, I told you the two vertical units are going to be on one side of the bridge to transmute one place to another. Now, in the structure of the new system, we see we can do in a much easier way. We have brought all our new systems and whatever we have to assess the position, the field interaction, and everything else in the system. There is a threshold barrier. Once we reach that threshold barrier, we can go from physicality to the energy level very easy. If you remember, we brought the sensors we built in Switzerland some 10, 12 years ago into the Sensano, and we recorded a 129. Now we have brought these systems back into operation as we see the fields. If you go back, if you were with the foundation at that time, we started with a very few milliteslas. And then we start building up. Over weeks, we went to 129. We broke the level of the present science, where Americans were holding at 105. They spend millions and billions, we spend a few thousand. They use massive power stations to feed the system, and they could hold it for a few seconds. We used few volt batteries because we know the knowledge of the science of the universe. Now, our systems set in show us the same pattern. We started at 0.04 millitesla. And we started at 0.23 millitesla on the higher level detector. In past 2 or 3 days, even we have so many people going in and out, we have reached 0.06 millitesla. We have increased by 50%. And if we see this trend, we should reach about the 5 to 20 Tesla plasmatic field in the coming weeks. And then it takes over. Then allows us the transmutation and transportation in the mixture of the fields within the unit. And we are not switching off the systems anymore. Or if we do, we know that the systems in a plasmatic condition have interacted and working. So what we see is what we were looking for in the system, that we came across a very simple position in our structure. As many of you know by now, if this is the test center, this is your entrance, you have the 3 chairs on either side, and you have 2 flight simulation, each one having 2 chairs. Now we have mounted detectors, 2 detectors, one looking in this way and one looking in that way. We have brought plasma detectors, looking to it with oscilloscope, where the plasma detectors will tell us in our system how things are taking shape in a field strength. We look at the amplitude and we see how things have moved or moving. In this process, what we have seen is that people who come around this center area have a common denominator connection when we ask them to hold hands together. They think, and some of them tell us, in that point, they see a vortex of fields going up. They can see, they feel it because they're in the dimension of the soul, they're in the dimension of the fields, not in the dimension of the physicality. Something very, very interesting which has come up, and I'm sure the researchers in the future will confirm it in more much detail, is that everyone who crosses seat number 2 to 3, who has been through the process and gone through the conversion, will tell you something very interesting. They listen to us with the instruction, but they hear it as a noise, but they carry the instruction out. When they come out, they remember the instruction, and then they do the fuzziness and everything else with it. it is important for us to remember that now we deal with both dimensions. In this room, there is nothing but the fields. So in that process, you're part of it. What is interesting for me when I stand in this room watching them, they know the dimension of physicality when they have to get in and out of the system, or choose a chair, or they stand around. But at the same time, when they go back in the field dimension, they interact in the field of the soul. They start from one system, they go to another system, and then it's a different position, different strength, different what we call interactions. We see in that process, as they can see with the eye of the soul, the eye of the man will change too. We are following two knowledge seekers, one of them on a permanent basis, in how their vision has changed and is taking place, that the soul, the energy inside, has started wanting to see. We are following the one knowledge seekers, which now has attended 4 or 5 sessions of flight. We have made it free for him because it's a process for us to understand. He came in with one eye blind for 6 years due to a stroke. The nerves in the eye have exploded and the whole eyeball is blood flowing in a base full of blood. The shape of the eye has changed, but he, in the first instance, when we came to explain, he felt the tears for the first time in his eyes after the first flight, after 6 years. We had the same with an Italian lady who has a problem with the eye and no tears for years. And she told you yesterday, tears coming from her eyes. But what is interesting with the person who's going through simulation flight testing is that now he tells us yesterday that he start feeling connections and pains that as the eye is interacting. And at the same time, for the first time, on his eye, he feels like a salt on his eye coming down. In a way, when you lose your eyesight, or you lose the use of your eye, but the eye is still open, you still come across the interaction of the air and whatever of the condition of the environment. But as the eye channels for the liquid are blocked because the body doesn't see any need for it, it's a waste of energy, the eye itself starts building layers over what we call the physical part, that the wind, the cold, whatever does not touch it. You don't need to create tears to keep it wet and moist. And now what we see that these layers are rubbing off as like a sand. And within the next few weeks, every time he goes into the vision enhancement units and then into the flight simulation, we see the point that the eye will start in a way through the wishes of the soul of the man to see. I expect him to have both visions within the next 3 to 6 months, maybe earlier. I did what the Christ did, give insight back to the blind. But it's not the first time. But this time, we don't do it as a mystery and a magic of a religion. We do it as understanding of the science of the creation. We will see many of you taking a flight simulation to, in a way, change the processes within yourself to fulfill where the things went wrong, to put it right, that psychosomatic conditions you created for physicality, when it's embedded within the soul, will not be there. This is one thing which knowledge seekers have not understood. The soul of the man is perfectionist. The soul of the man will not allow anything to go wrong. The soul of the man lives by the ethos of the Mitra. So it cannot, when it takes over the physicality to be within it, allow any faults. It has to correct itself, because then if it's wrong within it, it will affect the operation of itself. This is why you see changes. This is why you see the change in everything in the physical dimension. Because up to now, you had the body of the man and you interrupt the soul in it. Now the soul has you entrapped in it. And now everything in this has to be perfect. We are not healers. We don't offer a health system. We offer you a flight system to fly the span of the universe and bring the knowledge of the universe to correct the dismal physical life of the man in a physical dimension. The interesting thing is, in the next few weeks, we'll have a Zoom session with all those who went through the system. Because the process does not finish when you exit. The process just starts when you exit. As I said, in the dimension of the physical life, the real life starts when the physicality finishes. We call it death, and the life of the soul starts. You expect it, and you go through the systems and come out, and the soul is left behind, back in trap again. My dear friends, you have let the cat loose. Now it knows it can come and go. Many of the knowledge seekers who we speak to, or they talk today later or the week later with us, tell us they have a connection with the system. The only way you can have a connection to the system is to the soul of the system and the soul of the man. And so we have given you that freedom. In this way, we have taken the man into the universal community without a man. It'll be interesting when we bring the knowledge seekers together who went through the system, what they tell us has changed in them since they've been in. What physicality has changed? What has changed in their emotion? What have they fixed in their social life? What have they changed in interaction with their friends and families? Because it's not that I experienced or I won the lottery. Now is I want to live the life of the universal community and live by the ethos of Mitra. We see many knowledge seekers change as they go through this process. Change is not that suddenly you become something. Change comes as you gradually become citizens of the universe. You live by the behavior of the universal community and not by the physicality of the universal community. The changes are profound. And as I said, we'll see as it comes. As I said, you will understand this in a very clear way. With the gentleman with the eye, we are photographing his eye every day he comes in now, to watch how the eye has changed. It was interesting standing in front of him yesterday after he came out of the system, after he had a long session of flight. It took a few seconds for him to allow us to take pictures of his eye. And he wanted to look at it. And he said for the first time, he noticed that his eye, which is blind, is different. He never considered where one eye is this size, now the eye has changed to so smaller because he just had an eye. What we see interesting is the eyeball now, when he came, there was just like creamish yellowish color. Now all the veins are full of blood. The body is retaining back because the soul of the man sees the physicality has to match the soul to see the perfection of it. When I released the eye vision units, you all thought it was going to be my eyes perfect if I have this and that. It was to open the eye of the soul of the man, not the eye of the physicality of the man. But when you open the eye of the soul of the man, it has to be perfect with its physicality too. We are not physicians. We are the knowledge seekers. We are the scientists of the universe. I explain these things step by step that you as knowledge seekers understand it. That you know what has come, what we told you will come is exactly what we said. And what we say to expect in the coming time is to come. It's not anymore making magraphs. It's not anymore making Ganses. You have joined the universal community and you have to understand the implication and application of becoming part of a new society. How to react, how to be. Yesterday, when we saw the Austrians coming out of the room, it was interesting and it got more interesting, and then it became an explosion in one of them. The joy of becoming part of universal community as a frog was so, looking frog animals was so joyful. You hear it in Sunday when it comes. I hope in the recording she could communicate to tell us, or they're sending it back us to report and we're recording it for them. It is amazing to see how things work. What the knowledge we didn't have. The knowledge of being aware of fields around us. And then if we want it, we change the fields into reality of dimension. 1 minute, the brother, the face, the look, and then the next second, the energy of the presence of the brother. You have to learn, as I always say, you have no choice. That the time for encapsulating, imprisoning, keeping to hostage, as I said from the beginning of the time when we started these works, the physicality of the man is a leech on the soul of the man. Now you understand what it means because now you have it, you can free it. It's for you to be ready for the evolution of the man in the world of the science of the universe, not science of microchips and others. Those of you who went through the full transmutation of the fields of the soul of the man, you'll find out, some of you, if you've gone through the process the correct way, travel to China. To you, you speak English. To the Chinese, hears you in the Chinese language. The emotion of the language. You don't need to say Kamaslich, because it doesn't exist anymore. You don't need to sit and wait. I have to find a word for it to explain maybe the emotion. Because in the exchange of the understanding of the language, the soul of the meaning of the word has already changed. In the next few weeks, testing, we bring a new dimension into the work. By September, we try to add 2 more units into this, what we call environment. What is interesting for us is that we will move the 2 systems further apart to the extremes of sides. With it, we'll bring 2 more units into the system. There's still each 2 passengers, and we add to the number of the seats around the room to make it to 12. In the process of these new systems, what some of you will see is not anymore as reactors, but you should start seeing lights, like the stars. In this process, we gradually will get rid of what we call the physical systems. And what you will have is the containment of condition of what we call universal community. I expect this maybe if we get it all right by November. It's a lot of work. And then what we shall see is anyone entering this room in a way of instantaneous operation will join the universal community. You decide. New York, Mars, another galaxy, and if you're very, very clear in the ordeal of life of the man, you'll come across one of the most beautiful things, and that is you will meet, you'll come to feel the essence of the presence of the Creator. We had people going through the system and wanting to meet the Christ or feel His presence, and they have done. We have knowledge seekers who go in a specific way to raise the soul of the Germans, the Italians, and the rest. And they have not matured that are there to raise the soul of the humanity, the earth, and the universe. It needs time to mature. We're still under the banner of the Keshe Foundation, are nationalistic. Where this has to die, where this has to be understood, the nation is a small part of the totality of my soul. I am nationalistic when it comes to Iran and the land of Iran. But that is the limitation of it, because I'm committed to universal community. It'll come to a lot of you that by changing seats in different part of this structure, you will fly to different positions in the universe. You want to go to galaxies, you choose this. You want to go to Earth, you use that. You want to go to Mars, you use that. And then you choose combination of these 1, 2, and 3s to sit and land in different positions in the universe. And as you have seen, those of you who've been through the system and come out, I listen to you patiently. I don't ridicule you. Are you sure what you've seen? Because what you tell us is the truth that the soul has seen. And sometimes I wish I was there to see the joy you took. We're building these systems that in a coming time, when you come near Uno, what we call exhibition center, you see the light from kilometers that you know this is the site. We build it in the inner sanctum of a building to show that we do not need to be in a space, because that inner sanctum itself is part of the universal space. To man is underground, to universe is an open span of these energies. We bring you a dimension that, as I said, you could not imagine, but now you can think and become reality. You go to places and you meet with people you like. Yesterday I listened to a lady who wanted to meet Jesus. That was her wish. And then she tells us, I felt a field, I didn't see the man. So in that field, you feel the essence of the soul of the Christ. Bless his name. Interesting is that we had 2 Muslims up to now through the system. We are not aware of any Jews coming through. I wonder what the Iranians who booked in to come in, would they come and bring the soul of the blessed name Muhammad to play, to enlighten the Muslims of today, to stop the whole mayhem of present time. As I said yesterday, we'll invite the world ambassadors into the room, and let's see how many of them reject and how many of them walk in as a man, and then they become the ambassadors of the nation through the soul of the nation. This is not anymore 1 or 2. We are facilitating, and in a time to come, those of you who came and walked out of this door, you already have become the ambassadors of the system. If I get enough of you through these doors around the world, then the extent of this room changes, and earth becomes the testicle. This is the beauty of what is to come and what we are there to deliver. Whatever we set up to now, we deliver. We still make it a mad maps. You still want to see a paint pad and a paint pen. We still keep on, because we've got nothing else to do. We have to keep going. But in essence, the seed for the unification of the soul of the man with the universal community has truly started in this. And I hope to see many of you when you left, how you bring everything back together, how you will allow us to become part of the universal community. If you thought man has achieved major breakthroughs with nanotechnology and rocket space technology, as the old saying says, you've seen nothing yet when it comes to the world of the plasma. Many of you will come to have new abilities which you could never imagine even exist. Because as you travel through the span of the universe, you learn new knowledge, and then you'll be able to apply it in a physical dimension of life. Many of those who travel with UFO would like to get into the atmosphere of the earth to learn what has been gifted to man, to be able to pass the span of the universe and not spend thousands of years traveling from one to B, just to be somewhere as the physicality wanted. Now you travel to the position and you change the dimension of physicality. Who doesn't need UFOs, rocket propulsion, or airplane? This is the start of a revolution and evolution, and many of you will enjoy it. Once gets hold in complete condition, there will be no more hunger and suffering. There will be no more illnesses. There will be no more what I call persecutions and religions to tear each other apart. There will be no more war, because now you live through the ethos of the most beautiful creature in the universe called Mitra. And then you understand. When you hold Mitra in your arm the way I do, you understand the beauty of the creation. You understand what the man has to give, to bring, to be able to change what's within. Be prepared for what is to come, because it's you who makes the destiny, not us. It's you who make the destiny for yourself and not for us. Understand the totality of the knowledge. Be prepared for a change, and this change will come in a very drastic way. And the Keshe Foundation organization will sit in the background for it to take full shape. In the coming days, we'll announce radical changes and position with the Keshe Foundation. Those who betrayed us will be ashamed of what they've done. Those who support us will be joyful to see the change they wish for will come. Understand what is to come, and understand and be prepared to accept what is to come. It's been promised when the Messiah comes, it will be the land of milk and honey. The milk and honey is arrived. And the Messiah is you with your soul. It's you who have to decide how much milk and how much honey you want to take from the beauty of the creation and the universe. Promise that the peace will come. It's you who have to make peace with yourself. It's you who have to be in peace with everything structured around you. Everything which has been promised in all your holy books, doesn't matter which book you open, from Quran to Torah and the rest of it, will come true. But for your soul, if you understand the truth about the creation. Otherwise, what they say, the hell and the heaven, you still live in the hell, which is the physicality of the man. You suffer every day. Heaven is for those who understand the evolution of the soul and will it live the dance of Mitra. And will it end up everything which is for the physical dimension the way they be. Now, you wanted the explanation of where it comes, where it ends. It's you who actually lived in the hell for all this time, and now you want to get to heaven. And you know the path to heaven. You know the path is to understand the essence of the creation for yourself. You don't need no messengers, and you don't need no prophets, because the prophet is understanding the emotion of the man. In the process of the system, in a very simple way, as I keep on explaining for those who come to go through the process in the room. When you enter the room, some of you get touched by the environment. It's very correct, it's very true, because the systems have been running and people have been going through it. So as you enter, there's already a pre-existence field. As you go from seat 1 to seat 2 and to seat 3, in seat 1, a balancing physicality takes shape. But don't forget, you still have tapped into the fields within the building, within the structure. When you go to 2, you will see, as many of you tell you, many people go through the system, first thing they tell us most of the time, they feel the legs are there, but they don't know, they feel the legs. But here is something different. But they are all concerned about the legs, pain in the back and the leg. So here we open the solar physicality. So the solar physicality start working, but the physicality is still attached by the leg to the ground. That's why you have this dilemma. When you enter seat number 3, then the game changes and the soul of the man takes over the physicality. Some of you say, I feel no difference from chair 2 to 3, because in that process you have already brought in the soul of the man into play. And then whatever you do in this block, walking, sitting, we put chairs for you here now, you are in the environment of the soul of the universe, not the earth. Even though you talk, you walk, you drink, everything else. By the way, I have a news for you. We had the first drunken soul by the Italians in the team when they came, because they brought their own bottle and we gave it to them. And one of them got drunk because of it, but it was beautiful to see a drunken soul. And it comes to the point that in this room, you are in the fields of the universe. You choose. And interesting enough, all those who've been through this, when they go back to 3, 2, 1 and go out, they tell you, as they sit on the 3, they know the journey of the soul is finished and they're ready to accept the condition of physicality. And by the time they reach seat number 1, most of them, or all of them, tell you they knew, as Monday said, it landed. They have landed back on Earth. The journey of the soul is finished. And they all tell you they feel that physicality, the weight back again. Which means what we said from the beginning is, when the soul takes over, weight and the dimension does not matter. Will be interesting for us in next few days and next few weeks of testing. Will be how many of you in the position of the structure of the work will transmute to any position in the room. Don't forget, we got you when you sat in chair number 1 by the leg. You're not going anywhere. Go to planet Zeus, we still got you. You come back to us because we tell you to come back. Even though you're in the dimension of the soul, many of you tells us that they hear noises. But the only noise they hear is the instruction which goes what and where. Most of you get the instruction from your own physical dimension, as many of women especially say, they know the physicality is coming to do something. Says, no, I don't want, I just want to carry on with what I'm doing. And we start seeing a pattern of work which shows you, we make you ready to become passenger of the universe, and then we make you ready to become the passenger of physicality. You tell us what you've been through, and we listen. We have had beautiful conditions, beautiful understanding, and in a way, it's the most beautiful conditioned place to be, to see how the souls work. As I said, in the coming weeks, once we complete our structure, we are happy with it, we'll call you to call your ambassadors to come to Linz, where Hitler ended many lives. From the ashes of the phoenix, we start with new lives. New life in the space, new life in the dimension of existence, and new life in understanding that there is a purpose bigger than the dimension of physicality of eating and sleeping. It'll be very interesting when the first children of the man in the dimension of the souls are created within this room. And then the new race started. As we said, the soul of the Mitra and physicality of Mitra is amongst us, and the gift is given to man. We had the most beautiful experience yesterday and in the past weeks in how the couples come together and how they see each other in the dimension of the soul after they've been through the system. They actually physically touch each other's souls as a soulmate. And I encourage more couples, more people who are in love with each other to come into the system. We had the pleasure of, for the first time, 2 ladies who were in love with each other yesterday. And it was beautiful to see how the soul interacted. And we had the privilege of seeing brothers and sisters. We had the privilege of seeing sisters and sisters. And we had the privilege of the lovers to go in. It is amazing to see how they come out and how they connect afterwards. And how life will take shape. It's a privilege to be in this position, to see the birth of the new race. To be part of it, that you initiated, and to be there to fulfill the wishes of the Creator. It's like a gynecologist. You looked after the baby in the womb of the mother, and then you go to the delivery room waiting for that child to be born. When I stand outside, it gives you that feeling. You see new children of man coming out. Going in as a man and coming in to understand now there is another life, the way existence now will have a different meaning. It's not confined to the womb of the mother, but now it's confined to the life of the living in the dimension of the Creator. But these gynecologists have been waited for thousands of years. And this child in the womb of the mother of the earth has gone through many traumas. But now we see the birth of it. And it's a pleasure to be there. Whatever kicking and shouting you did in the womb of the mother is over. Now you have to enjoy the pleasures of the life in the universal community. That was the wish of the Creator, and I have delivered. Let's see what mankind does with the gift that we get. We go through a break and we come back And today we have to finish at 11:50. We've got about an hour with any questions. Would you like to take us for a break, please?
Okay, Mr. Kesh, thank you very much. Okay, this is the 438th Knowledge Seekers Workshop. We'll be taking a short commercial break and be back in a few minutes for a question period. Okay.